It's Showtime Synergy. The latest review podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network is here. So join TFG1Mike, Nicole Hailstorm, and myself, Lady Rec, as we will be reviewing all 65 episodes of Joe and the Holograms in a 25-episode-long podcast. You can find Showtime Synergy on iTunes and GeekCastRadio.com. We are the truly outrageous podcast that you want to be listening to.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle GRAYSKULL. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of GRAYSKULL!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together we defend Castle GRAYSKULL from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Hello, this is OptimusSolo, and welcome to the 38th chapter in Tales of Eternia. With me for this journey into the Masters of the Universe franchise, as always, is TFG1Mike. Hello.
Hello.
And we're winding our way down, getting towards the end of Season 2 and towards the end of our first series. Still have a little bit of ways to go. So, sir, are you ready for the powers of GRAYSKULL?
I guess. I don't know.
I think this second half of Season 2 has been pretty darn good, actually.
Overall, yeah, but I'm just
It's
so
saving
tired.
me from being depressed and unhappy. I still at least am looking forward to watching episodes, which is something I stopped being forward looking to future episodes when we were doing Mask about 10 episodes in. At least I'm still looking forward to watching He-Man episodes.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because, we've got the Gem show, Showtime Synergy, coming up later this year here on GCRN with Lady Rec and Beatles Diva and I. And, we had to pre-produce that show in advance of its release because at the time Amy was pregnant. So it's so funny because I cannot find any single annoying thing in Gem is less. It's
Still not as bad as Mask.
Yeah, nothing. At this point in the GCRN history of reviewing stuff, whether it's a cartoon series that we go through like we've done with this, or the Transformer stuff, anything we've done for a review show, nothing will equal the horribleness
I can find
of
one.
Mask.
I can put you through some more pain.
Yeah, but no, but this time you're sticking around. If you bring the idea to me, there's no fucking bailing on
I'll
this
pick something that's only like 13 episodes long and we'll suffer through.
Well, there was, and God, if I even say this, I know people are going to steal the name. Originally, back when, right after we did, I think it's episode 73 of Tooncast Classic, which is the Cops episode, about a month after that, I'm like, we could do a Cops review show and call it Central Organization of Podcast Specialists.
I'd be all for that before I would ever be watching another episode of Mask. Is Mask really worse than the Nintendo cartoons?
At times, yes.
Okay.
There are okay, don't get me wrong, and I'm going to bring this person up, I know, whatever, but anyway, my buddy Neil, TV's Mr. Neil, he and I have been doing Pixels in the Animation since 2011, and there are really, really bad portions of the Super Mario era of Nintendo cartoons, from Super Show to Super Mario 3 to Super Mario World. Super Mario World is probably the worst incarnation of Mario, but having it set against Mask, it's almost like laying in a bed of roses compared to Mask is laying on a bed of nails. It just boggles my mind how bad within the Mario franchise that cartoon is. But yeah, you put it up against something like Mask, and it's just so much more intelligent.
Interesting.
And sad thing is, the Mask episodes are 22 minutes, and the Mario World episodes are like 8.5 to 10 minutes long.
That's maybe
It's
why
like...
it doesn't seem as bad.
No, probably not.
But getting back to something I still am looking forward to watching, I haven't grown tired of it yet. In this episode of Tales of Eternia, we'll be giving you our thoughts on episode 111, Double Trouble, episode 112, The Eternian Flower, and episode 113, Happy Birthday, Roboto. So we hope you're ready, because it's time to go back to Eternia.
I don't believe it. The mighty beast man afraid of a little lightning.
Don't laugh, Skeletor. That storm could bring the whole place crashing down.
Snake Mountain can never be destroyed. However, I think I'll keep watch on the storm from somewhere else.
The storm, it's going.
There, you see, I told you it was safe.
Skeletor, look!
A secret passage. The storm must have opened it up. Let's see where it goes. This passage must have been closed off for hundreds of years. What's this? Beware the mirror of Moravad, where bad is good and good is bad, where one may come, two depart, but only one may have the heart.
The Mirror of Moravad. I've heard of it. It can make an evil double of anyone.
That's it! The key to gaining the power of GRAYSKULL. Now all we need is someone close to He-Man, someone he trusts. But who?
All right, we start today with episode 111, Double Trouble. Written by J. Michael Straczynski, who we've seen before. Air date Tuesday, November 13th, 1984. Skeletor uses the mirror, good lord, the Mirror of Moravad. Moravad? Mirror of Moravad.
Moravad.
There's too many M's in that and too many R's. To make an evil clone of He-Man's ally, Koldar, among many other clones that he makes. And before I trip over my tongue anymore, the bad guys in this episode are Beastman, Evelyn, and Skeletor. We have our regular masters, including the Sorceress and Queen Marlena. PSA is, no one is all good or all bad. Don't judge by looks, but by actions. And Orko's fun facts. Koldar was actually supposed to be a new character that was going to be used, etc. But because they were so far into the series and it didn't continue past this is basically his only appearance. Yeah. What did you think of the clones, the mirror, Koldar, and the plot for Double Trouble?
Well, first of all, too many M's. As soon as you said that, it reminds me of something one of our other listeners, I don't remember who it was specifically, but I had put out, when I first got the voicemail number for GCRN, I put it out there online and whatever else, and someone said, there are too many fives in that, because it's 502-526-5821. So there's way too many fives and way too many twos. So it's kind of like there are way too many M's. No, I love this episode. And it wasn't until I realized, until right before we hit the record button on this podcast, that the reason why I love it is because of the fact that it's Straczynski writing it. I don't remember a lot of his other episodes in this show.
Yeah, but
like, it's been a long time since we've seen a J. Michael Straczynski episode here.
Yeah, he's done quite a few episodes. He's definitely not one of just the one-off people. He's one of the people that repeatedly wrote for the show, and you can kind of somewhat tell when we get a writer like that. They just seem to know the characters better, know the world better. He did The Origin of the Sorceress, who we both gave a 5 to. He also did Trouble's Middle Name, neither one of us really liked that one too much. Journey to Stone City, which you gave a 4 and I gave a 4.5 to. So, I mean, he's written some ones that we've rated pretty high. So, good stuff from him.
As soon as I realized that it was him doing it, I'm like, oh, so that's where the comedy comes in.
Yeah.
We'll get to that when we get to Castle GRAYSKULL, but oh my, like, I just had fun with this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a plot that is new to anybody in the cartoon world or anything like that. Obviously, we've seen the whole cloning type of thing. Not necessarily, I can't put myself in my, 4 4-year-old shoes and say that I had seen it when I saw it here. I might not have seen it before that, but obviously it's something that a lot of series do. You know, we talked about it in Transformers, or we will talk about it again in Transformers at some point when Optimus Prime faces off against Optimus Prime. You know, that type of thing has happened not just in Transformers, and in a lot of different series. And it's a clever device for a plot. But as much as I've seen it, I didn't necessarily mind it in this one. And I thought it was interesting that they used him, you know, a clone of him at first, but then it kind of went off the hinges, and we had clones of everybody, especially Skeletor. So it kind of became a comedic thing as well as a plot device. So I'm with you. I enjoyed this episode.
I enjoyed this episode, and now that you're talking about it more, it kind of brings back to our discussion in the intro of the show this week. Captain N did this in '89. It wasn't this, like, it wasn't a mirror. It was clones, but it was more opposites than it was made up clone. Like, it wasn't manufactured clones. There was an opposite for Captain N, for Lana, for Mega Man, in the mirror world where her father was trapped. So this is very familiar to me, and I love, and we'll gush about it later, as I said in Castle Grayskull, but I love what they did with Skeletor here.
And it's not even something that's new to this series in particular. We saw, obviously, He-Man and Faker very early on in the series. So, I mean, it's not even something new to the series, but it didn't feel old. It didn't feel repetitive. It didn't feel like a broken record. So I give them credit for executing it in a way that still felt fresh and new to me, even as a 30-some-year-old person that had seen this many times in my life so far. So,
I will say that when Skeletor, and I actually have this as one of my Castle Grayskull moments, so I'll say it here. When Skeletor was reading the whatever on the cloth, I thought we were going to get the first appearance of Too Bad. I really, because it says in the thing, it says something about Too Bad, and I'm like, really? Seriously? He shows up here? That would be so cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And obviously the PSA is a decent one as far as, you know, there's good and bad in everybody. So you have to kind of treat people as they treat you and see their actions. Don't judge by their looks, and don't think that, you know, somebody's all bad, there's good inside them, or this, that, and the other. I mean, that's a decent PSA. It kind of goes along with the episode. All right, well, let's get to exactly what specific things we liked as we make our way for the first time this week to Castle Grayskull.
We must hurry, Shadow Master, if we're to keep our appointment with our old friend He-Man.
Well, Adam, are you coming to the reception for Koldar?
Who?
Koldar. He's an ally of He-Man's.
Oh, that's nice. Well, wake me when it's over.
But... never mind. You just go ahead, sleep your life away. I'm going to see Koldar.
And if He-Man's going to get there in time, he'd better hurry. By the power of Grayskull!
All right, we've arrived at Castle Grayskull for the first time today to talk about what things we liked about episode 111, Double Trouble. Mike, I will let you start first. You said that you liked this episode. What exactly did you like about it?
Well, first of all, I know we've had this several times, but we never really get too much of the plot sometimes with Skeletor in the very beginning. Like, when episodes of He-Man open up at Snake Mountain, we usually get like one or two little explanations, and then it goes off to the palace. And this one, it seemed like it took a long time to explain what Skeletor was going to do. I'm not complaining about it. I like it. I like how we had all this time, maybe 3.5, 4 minutes at Snake Mountain in the beginning of the episode. And that's obviously, you know, where he finds the mirror and talks about Too Bad and everything else. So I really did enjoy that. Skeletor actually, once again, just like last week when we talked about the problem with power, Skeletor seems to really have a good plan and good execution this time. It's like his IQ points have gone up.
He's getting smarter with the more episodes that go by.
Yeah, he doesn't have too much longer to get too much more smarter.
That's good because he's starting to come up with some good plans. It might be bad for He-Man if it went on too much longer.
Poor Orko. I kind of like this and I kind of don't, but poor Orko. Every time we see Orko and he's doing a magic trick for the king and queen or for whomever, they're always there and it always goes wrong. Well, in this case, they don't even let him do the magic. It's like Orko is the comedy relief of this episode. Because poor Orko, every time he wants to show somebody a new trick, something new he thinks he's learned, nobody's there.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit.
I was really shocked. I was shocked and I wasn't shocked, and I was like, oh, damn, a good Skeletor. Now that just amped up this episode over 9,000. The Pazai, whatever the hell they're called, came out for a minute there. I thought we were going to see a Luke Skywalker training sequence with He-Man. Because the little red things were shooting stuff at him. I thought he was going to, have the power sword turn into a lightsaber or something.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
The Skeletor Beastman scene is just genius. The two Skeletors and poor Beastman. This is exactly why I love this episode, is because of this interaction. And, this might be the only reason why I give it the grade I give it, honestly. Because this was just great.
I agree with that. That's one of the things I had down, too. It's one of the instances where they changed what that double cloning, original plot point was, and they kind of turned it into something that was also a side, almost a side plot or a comedic part, and possibly the funniest that Beastman has been throughout the entire series.
Yep.
But it was really good when they started doing the clones of Skeletor. That turned the episode up a different level. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, and I like the double storyline anyways. I usually like that. I like the idea of possibly having problems with figuring out who's who. I like Koldar. I thought his design was cool. There's something I didn't like about him, but I did like the actual design. Right. And I also like the idea of the hidden tunnel, and that not every part of Snake Mountain is totally known, and there might be some secrets or some areas that even Skeletor doesn't know about. So some interesting things that we'd never kind of seen before up through 111 episodes.
Yup.
All right, well, let's see what we didn't like as we make our way to Snake Mountain.
Too late for that, Koldar. Too late to help anyone. Including yourself.
Evil Lynn. What?
You'll find out when you meet Skeletor.
Koldar, so good to see you. You're just the person I was looking for.
All right, now that you got me, what now?
I want you to bring me the secrets of GRAYSKULL.
You're mad, Skeletor. I'll never help you.
Not you, perhaps, but what if there was another you?
But there isn't.
There will be now. Unveil the mirror of Moravad.
Why, it's me.
Not you, but your opposite. The mirror makes the reverse of whatever it sees. Well, Double, what will you do for me?
I will convince He-Man to let me into Castle GRAYSKULL. Once there, I will steal the source of He-Man's power. The secrets of GRAYSKULL. No!
Oh, yes!
All right, we talked about everything we liked. What about some things you didn't like about Double Trouble?
It corrected itself, but I can't believe He-Man is that much of a fool. And seriously, wouldn't this be the Sorceress's decision to let someone into Grayskull? And where the hell was she? Like, she's always there as soon as he opens the drawbridge.
Right.
It's like, was she going to the bathroom? Was she taking a shower? Was she doing some laundry in the depths of the pit or something?
Thought you were going to say something different besides take a shower.
Well, when you really think about it, do any of these characters actually take showers or baths? Because seriously, every time we see them, the only time any of them get wet is if they take a shower in the river or something.
True.
Oh, Lord. But honestly, that's really all I had to complain about. The rest of the episode was just fun for me.
Yeah, just a couple minor nitpicks. I said, I like the design and the way they made Koldar. His voice was terrible.
Yeah.
I know I sound like a broken record with this series and the voice work. You will hear something a little bit different later on in today's episode, which I don't normally do, but in this case, I hated Koldar's voice. Orko's recurring joke, I don't mind that it was a recurring joke if it was at least somewhat funny to me, but I didn't really find the humor in it. Maybe I'm just a stodgy old person, but I didn't find it as a funny gag, so it didn't hit home well enough for me to make it a recurring thing.
See, I don't think it was meant to be a funny gag. I think it was
I wanted it to be. I wanted to come up with different scenarios where it actually was more funny than it was.
Well, I think for me it was more so it was to give the audience the chance to be sympathetic for a character that usually is full of jokes and full of, folly and whatever else, and always is just, screwing everything up. And I think that the closer we get to the end of the series, the writers have really written him to the point where sometimes he succeeds, and at this point, I don't know how many times it's been, but in the last 4 or 5 episodes of the podcast, it's been more times than not that he's succeeded than failed. And with this one, I think is just meant to tug at our heartstring. It's oh, poor Orko, and they're not doing it intentionally. The He-Man and Man-at-Arms and Teela aren't saying, "Oh, well, let's go before Orko comes back." They're not saying that at all. They're just leaving before he can come back.
Right.
And I just felt really sorry for him. So I don't think it was meant to be a funny gag. I know you wanted it to be a funny gag, but I don't think it was meant to be that.
Yeah, I just thought there was potential where it could have been even more effective than it was. The Queen, at the end, did I say something funny? That was kind of a lame line. That's just kind of a nitpick, though. But I will say that one thing that actually had to do with the plot, I think they could have came up with a better way to find the right Skeletor. Right. They had all the different Skeletors, and that's the part of these types of storylines that I usually like, when it's a face-off, and it's how are you going to figure out which one's the real one? And for him to just say, "Hey, repeat this," I don't know. It was somewhat funny, but I thought that they maybe could have came up with a better way to do that. But all minor things. It was overall not an episode I found too much to hate about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what we actually came down with this one and how we rated it. We're coming off of a double 5 rating from the last episode of the last podcast episode with Problem with Power. Let's see how we start in this one as we get to our awards and ranking section.
Okay, here's the... Oh, no, not again.
You'd better go ahead. Make sure nothing happens to Koldar before we get there.
Right. Beastman, prepare Koldar for the freeze chamber. We'll see if being put on ice for a while will cool him off a bit.
Yes, Skeletor. Hey! How'd you do that?
How'd I do what? Never mind that. Where do you think you're going, huh?
To get Koldar, Master. To ready for freezing, like you said.
No, you're not to do anything until I tell you to, understand?
Yes, Master.
Well, Beastman, is Koldar ready?
But you said not to. You said...
I said to prepare Koldar for freezing. Now go prepare him.
Yes. Oh, boy.
And what do you think you're doing?
But you said...
Never mind what I said. Just do what I said.
All right. What?
It's an imposter. Quick, you fool, grab him.
Which one?
Him.
Will you make up your minds? Uh-oh. That sounds familiar. Gotta go.
Hey, man, look! 2 Skeletors.
Which one is the right one?
I am.
I have an idea. Repeat after me. He-Man, I am your friend.
He-Man, I am your friend. He-Man, I am... I can't do it, and I do not look like you.
Come on, let's find Koldar.
All right, it's time for episode 111, Double Trouble Awards and Rankings. I actually don't have any hardware to give out for this one. I just really didn't feel one way or the other that anybody did something terrible or did something I completely didn't like. Also wasn't anybody that was super impressing me. I could maybe see Skeletor because he had a decent plot, but I decided to not hand anything out with this one. What about you?
I'm going to give a power sword to Alan Oppenheimer for the voice acting, because I don't know if that was him saying the line twice and then the editors mixing them together when the two Skeletors are talking at the same time, or if that was him just, I don't know if it was him saying a line and then saying the line again, or if it was him saying the line at the very same time for both characters, but it was just great. It was so great.
Right.
It really, really was. He really, really outdid himself with that one.
I can dig that. Anything else for hardware?
Nope.
All right, well, how about the rating here? I know you like this one. How much did you like it?
5.
5, a second 5 in a row.
5 Orcos,
yep. Mike, he's given it a strong rating. I enjoyed it as well. I guess I didn't enjoy it quite as much as you did, but I'm still going to come down with a 4 Battle Cats out of 5 on this one. I still thought it was a pretty darn good episode. So we're starting the day off right, in somewhat of agreement. Let's see how that goes from here as we get to next episode 112, the Eternia Flower, coming up next.
I see Jono's land shuttle coming.
It'll be nice having children at the palace.
Yes, it will.
Well, count me out. Children are too rough.
Now, Cringer, I'm glad Jono and Chad are going to pay us a visit. So you be nice and make them feel welcome.
I'll try, but it won't be easy.
Here they come.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hop out, Chad. See you later.
Where's he going? What about the award ceremony?
He'll be there. Don't worry. Jono's not going to miss the ceremony.
Not when he's getting the Boy of the Year award.
Meanwhile, how about a fast tour of the palace?
All right.
All right, next up is episode 112, the Eternia Flower.
Okay, first, stop. What? This should be called the Eternian Flower.
I know, that's why I accidentally said that earlier in the episode.
It just, I even said that last week. That's how I introduced it in the closing of episode 37 of the podcast. I'm sorry, this is the lamest title ever.
It's hard to say the Eternia Flower.
Yeah,
the Eternian
Flower.
Anyways,
comes off the tongue better.
Written by Barbara Chain, air date of Wednesday, November 14th, 1984. Count Marzo plans to put the youth of Eternia under his spell by introducing them to the addictive plant, the Black Nightmare. His first victim is Boy of the Year, Jono. The masters are the regulars with the King and the Queen and the Sorceress. No evil warriors, just Count Marzo, basically. And the PSA... Do you know someone who uses drugs the way Jono used that flower? Drugs can be dangerous because of the effect they can have on the mind and body. The price one pays for the feeling a drug gives can be a loss of control, hurting someone you love, or something much worse. People often get sick playing with drugs. Some even die. Never take drugs from other people. Even if a close friend says it's all right, check with someone who really loves you. See you next time. Jesus Christ.
Something wrong, sir.
Oh my God. I'm trying to decide at what point I should start unleashing the hate in this episode. Trivia, one little quick trivia before we get to any of my negative thoughts. In one shot, when the Wind Raider is passing overhead, you can just make out He-Man sitting at the controls when it should be Prince Adam. Mm-hmm. So a little, I guess, goof, mix up, whatever in that. So, what do you feel? What was your thoughts and feelings and reactions to apparently the drug episode for He-Man, the Eternia Flower?
All right, everybody, if you're listening to this podcast and you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. If you're doing anything with heavy machinery, stop, because I am going to actually break everyone's brain. This is the only episode in the entire 130 episode run where I will say that the kids were not that fucking bad.
What?
The kids weren't, like... Okay, we've talked about this many, many times in the past 37 episodes. Most of the children that are in this cartoon series are horrible just horrible characters in general. These kids, while they are annoying, and everything they do is a little wonky and a little, I don't want to say annoying twice, but I'm going to, they weren't, like, if you take Jono and, what was his brother's name? Crap, I can't even remember. What was his brother's name? Question mark, hello. Chad. Yeah, you take Jono and Chad, and compare them to Ed Weiner and Jeremy and Malaktha's Ward and whatever else. These two aren't as bad as they are. They're just not. I really don't want to say too much else in the plot because it's going to basically be giving away my Snake Mountain moments and everything else.
I get that they want to do a episode that somehow relates to or sends a message about drugs, possibly, or that they have a PSA about drugs and they need an episode to work around it, or whatever the thought process might have been. There's about a gazillion different ways that they could have done a drug episode on a much more subtle note than what they decided to do with this one. Now, the writer Barbara Chain, I'm pretty sure that this is the only episode she does for the entire series. And I'm not sure if maybe she was just on a crusade or what, but there is nothing but heavy-handedness about this entire episode.
Yeah, I agree with that. And see, I thought that this is just me thinking from watching and listening to other things that Lou Scheimer has been in, or had been in before he passed away, and other interviews with him and stuff like that. I thought, like, okay, I know Larry DiTilio and all those guys came up with the overall Bible, and Lou basically approved it, but I really honestly thought that they went into the writer's room and basically said, okay, well, you can have your influence on this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea. And sad to say, this was the episode that they either gave to her or asked her to write or whatever it was. I don't know. And so is sniffing flowers equal tantamount to sniffing cocaine? Or heroin? I honestly, like, I wish they would have come up with, like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. This is in my Castle Grayskull moments, but I'm sorry, I have to say it here. They turned Count Marzo into a fucking florist.
And a drug dealer.
Okay, but he's a villain. I could see him be, like, I could see if he went into a laboratory and chemically created heroin for Eternians or something like, but an evil florist, really? That's what you're going with?
I am going to say this much, and I will save the rest of my thoughts for a little bit later, because I'm about to unleash hate for an episode that I have not done in a long, long time. First, though, before that, I am the most anti-drug person you'll come across.
Same here.
I have never taken even one smoke of a cigarette in my entire life.
Same here.
All right? I can't stand the idea of drugs. I can't stand what they do to people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I am the most anti-drug person you'll come across. I am not against an episode that somehow tries to portray the message or get a message home to kids about the evils of drugs. But in a fantasy world like we have in Eternia, it allows about 1,000 different ways to do that without doing what this episode did.
Exactly.
There's so many different ways that we could have done that on a more subtle standpoint or a more believable standpoint from the world and the universe that we've seen created in front of us for the last 111 episodes.
Yeah.
So my problem is not with the idea of the plot, but
it's the execution.
Well, it's not even just the execution. It's the idea of the plot I don't have a problem with, but the actual plot I do have some problems with them, number one, bringing Count Marzo in, number two, making it an addictive plant like a flower, number three, centering the plot around kids. I do have problems with the actual plot, and then I also have problems with the execution of said plot. But if it was just the idea of let's make an episode that tells kids that drugs aren't good, that part I could get behind. But everything after, like I picture them all sitting in a meeting conference room or whatever, and they say, you know what, we haven't done an episode that really tells kids about the evils of drugs. Oh, and I would have been the first person in that room that said, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that. And everything that happened after that idea was terrible. So I will leave it at that. Let's make a quick trip to Castle Grayskull so that we can at least not be 100% negative about this episode. Let's see if we could find anything good about the Eternian Flower.
Oh my God, it's a little too late for
your
that.
flower.
Thank you.
Now run along to your award ceremonies. I'll be watching you. Don't forget, I'll always be watching you.
And so, my dear subjects, none can equal the value of our young Eternians, for they are our most precious gift.
I don't see my brother. Don't worry, I'm sure Jono will be here any minute. I'm gonna look for him.
There's the place. Hey, perfect landing. I think I'll take a shortcut.
Our young people are the hope for the future of Eternia.
Indeed they are, Randor, indeed they are. And with the help of the young people, the future of Eternia will soon be mine.
How you gonna do that?
By making those youngsters so in need of my flowers that they'll do anything I tell them. Anything.
Oh, like they'll be your army.
Exactly. Then it will be bye-bye Randor, and I, Count Marzo, will be the king of Eternia.
And I get to be like man-at-arms, right?
One sniff of my Eternia Flower, fool, and you'll be man on his face, like that prize boy of the year.
And now...
All right, don't blink, you might miss it. We're at Castle Grayskull for episode 112. Mike, what did you like about this episode? You said you liked the kids, I guess.
Well, I found them a lot less annoying than the other ones. And I don't know, I just did. But I do agree with Cringer on the whole no children thing. Like, Cringer could almost be my grandfather at this point, because, oh my God, do I agree with Cringer on that.
Are we doing a screen share right now, or are you looking at my screen?
No.
Are you looking at my notes?
No.
Did you steal my notes, and then did I accidentally send you the file that had my notes written on them?
No.
Okay. Because my first note is, at least Cringer agrees with us and dislikes all the kids. In fact, that might be a sound clip that just needs to be saved for eternity.
Oh yeah,
of Cringer saying that he doesn't like all the kids.
Most definitely.
That sums up the series in one way.
I think, and I mentioned this to you off air, I have a clip. it's Skeletor saying something about, and He-Man will end himself or bring himself to his own demise, something or other. I was going to use that as the closing clip of episode 45, or I might actually use this as the beginning clip of episode 45. No children allowed.
Right.
Oh no, Count Marzo's back. And I wrote this in my Castle Grayskull moment because I thought it was actually going to be good.
I did too. I put the recurring characters, Count Marzo, and then I probably wish I would have deleted that.
And at first I thought he had an interesting plan until I found out what it was. He wants to basically make all the children high and turn them into his army to take over This is one of the worst this is
We're not at Snake Mountain yet.
And I had already mentioned it, but I'll say it again. So Count Marzo is reduced to being a florist. This is hilarious that he's reduced to being a florist. I just don't know. Oh man, what do you got?
All right, I like that Cringer doesn't like kids. I did think there was one funny moment when the computer tells Count Marzo that there's an intruder in the castle, even though the intruder is clearly already there, and he's like, "Now you tell me." That was the one funny moment of the episode. And the best part about this episode, the only redeeming quality at all, or the only reason that anyone should ever even watch this episode, would be to see the aerial shots of the palace. They do show more of the palace than probably we've ever seen. They do show a lot of you can see the fleet, you can see the different parts. So there is some pretty cool aerial shots from a visual standpoint. That's all I got. That's the only good thing I can say about this episode. So
right,
if you don't like hearing negative stuff, if you don't like hearing people bitch about cartoons and you think that's stupid when people are critical, even though that's what the whole point of this is, if you don't like hearing somebody trash something that you liked from when you were a childhood, skip the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. I'll say this right now. This is going to be interesting to see where our good buddy, Toon Master Tim, falls.
Well, do you know what's even more... I'll say it.
Okay.
I'm about to unleash hell.
Okay, it's going to be interesting after you unleash your hell to see what Toon Master Tim comments on this episode.
Or anybody else. And I have another question for somebody else as well. But I can't get negative while we're at Castle Grayskull.
Can't get to Snake Mountain.
It won't let me, so we got to get to Snake Mountain.
What made you pull such an awful stunt? I don't understand.
I was just having fun.
Jono, every young person on Eternia looks up to you. You were chosen Boy of the Year, and you ruined it for yourself and everybody. And I just want to know why.
I don't want to talk about it, okay?
All right, Jono. If that's the way you feel, perhaps you'll want to talk to me later.
Hey, Jono, that was some stunt you pulled today. Wow!
We'll talk about that later, Morden. There's gonna be a meeting at the Meadows tonight. I want you to be there.
Well, that's so far away. What's the meeting for?
It's a surprise, but you've gotta come.
All right.
See you there.
Adam, I've been looking for you.
What is it?
It's Jono. I'm so worried. He's like a different person.
Yeah, I know. Have you ever seen a flower like this? I found it in Jono's shuttle.
A black flower? No, never.
No, Tila!
Orko, what's wrong?
This flower is very dangerous.
You've seen one like it before?
Yes. At home on Trala, they call it the Black Nightmare. If you sniff it, it can do bad things to your mind.
In what way?
Well, it makes some people laugh or cry or see things that aren't there. Others get sick or try to do the darndest things.
You mean like climb the side of a high building?
Yeah.
So that's what made the change in Jono.
But there's no such flower on Eternia.
On Trala either. They were destroyed years ago.
Then where did Jono get it?
I think we'd better find out, quickly.
I'll call my Uncle Montork on Trolla. Maybe he knows something.
Meanwhile, I'm going to talk to Jono.
I'll go with you.
All right, we're at Snake Mountain, folks, and yeah, take it away.
You don't want to say anything first?
The only things I had written down, Orko. No, Orko. It won't be nice to have children at the palace. Before I even saw or figured out what the Black Nightmare was, I thought it was going to be another creeping Horak. Remember that big creeping cloud thing you hated? And the Iron Wall. How convenient for the plot. The Iron Wall separates Teela from Adam so he can become He-Man. You've got to be kidding me. All right, go ahead, sir.
All right. First of all, and I got to admit this here, I did not enjoy this episode as I watched it. And as I was getting to writing all my notes and giving rankings and ratings and whatnot, I was disliking it even more. And now as I'm talking about the episode, I'm hating it even more. So I'm basically disliking this episode more as each minute passes.
I'm a Peppa. Want to be a Peppa too?
First of all, why does the child Jonna here... First of all, why is his name Jonna? That's just weird. But anyways, I knew somebody once named Jonna, and that was a girl. Why does Jonna want the flower in the first place? It's like, since when do boys, like, even want to hold or take a flower with them of any kind?
I don't know.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
Second, they're so heavy-handed with the drug message that it's off-putting, even for someone that despises drugs. The fact that it's an actual plant when it could have been we're in freaking Eternia. It could have been some type of magic spell. It could have been some type of magic potion. It could have been a million different things instead of an actual flower. Yeah, it could have been a crystal or something that looks like it's an expensive jewel that's having some type of weird effect on people that are near it. That would have been fine. That would have been absolutely better if they were like mining something and there was these jewels and they were like just a new discovery. Nobody knew what they were, and all of a sudden it was making people act weird that had them. That would have been somewhat subtle.
I was going to say it could have been tiny crystals they snorted up their nose.
I don't even think they needed to ingest it. I don't think they needed to do anything.
Yeah.
It should have been just something that they held near them that had an effect that if it was close enough, it made them funky or something like that. Like, to have it an actual plant and to have it like actually something that you're sniffing or something like that is off-putting. Second, I think it loses its effect because it's acting like it's a problem for kids. And they want the message so badly to be towards the kids. The message would be more effective if it was Adam, if it was He-Man, if it was Man-at-Arms, if it was Skeletor, if it was one of the actual main characters being affected by it. Mm-hmm. But number one, it's only the kids that seem to be affected, that are interested in the flower, that are being affected by it. And it's a message that's only directed towards the kids, and it's acting like it's a problem that only exists for kids. Mm-hmm. So I have a problem with that. And I just think it's off-putting that we literally have a cartoon episode where evil villain is trying to drug the children of an entire land.
See, that's the other thing I don't get. Even when Skeletor does it. I mean, Skeletor wants to conquer the entire planet.
But he's going after He-Man.
Right. No. But I'm saying, Skeletor wants to conquer the entire planet. Marzo here wants to conquer the entire planet with an army of children. Eternia is the
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Pretty friggin' big. I don't think there are enough children. I mean, and the way I look at this series is I look at it not necessarily in whatever context of time and years and days and whatever months that are in the show, but I look at it in the context of the 80s. When it started to when it finished, so technically this whole era of He-Man took 2 years, but it's like it just doesn't seem like in 2 years' time there would be 100,000 or 500,000 or 1 billion children on planet Eternia. Like,
the whole idea that he's even going to use children in any way, shape, or form is stupid. Because especially given the children that we've seen that exist in this world, it's not like you're capturing 1,000 Spartan children that have warrior DNA in their, going through their veins. It's like a bunch of whiny silver spoon. Oh God!
Where's Ricky Schroeder when you really need him?
So just the whole idea of this episode is bad. It's bad. It's misguided. It's misintended. The whole premise of it is bad. Right? So it's bad from that level. Then what usually I like, they bring in some recurring characters we've seen before.
Right.
That includes Count Marzo. That includes Count Marzo's sidekick, the Chimera, or however
the pink guy, yeah.
Yeah. It involves Chad, one of the children.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Problem number 2. Why don't the Chimera and Chad look anything like they did the first time they appeared?
I don't even remember the first time they appeared.
Chad's hair was a different color the first time he appeared.
Maybe it was dye. Maybe it washed out.
It was a completely different color. Like it's brunette in the one, and then it's like redhead in the other.
Oh.
All right, that's number 1. Okay, I could maybe give you a pass if it's just simply like a hair color. That might be something that I could explain. The Chimera, it's not even close. It's not even freaking close. Like the one that we see in this episode. I don't really know how you. We're gonna put some pictures up in the post, but the one that we got originally was like this blue muscle-bound character that had like a section of the middle of his face that was like a light color, and then it almost looked like he had a toupee on. It was like a dark green like hairpiece that it looked like.
Now that you're talking about this, all I can think of is the teacher from The Incredibles. Coincidence? I think not.
I mean, it's not even close. Like, I don't know whose failure that is to not even. I mean, it's like they acknowledged that these characters existed previously, so they brought them back. Mm-hmm. But then why would they not even come close to making them look like they did originally? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I have a problem with that execution part. Then we have, apparently, what's happening at the beginning of this episode is a Boy of the Year contest. That sounds like something the Catholic Church has or something. I don't know. Boy of the Year. That just seems wrong. Like, what do you do to achieve Boy of the Year? And why would we do that? Why would we put some kid on a pedestal? And, like, I get that they're trying to say that he's like someone that the rest of the kids look up to, but it just seems wrong. The whole title of that, Boy of the Year, I don't know. That just seems weird. The voicing is so inconsistent with Chad. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, not Chad, with Jonah. Jonah, whatever his name is. The drawings, the visuals, and the voice continue to switch. Sometimes he looks like he is 10. Sometimes he looks like he's 17. Sometimes he looks like he's 13. And the voice is sometimes higher and sometimes lower than other times. Like, there's no consistency with that character whatsoever. Why was Count Marzo living in Trala? Was that something that was established the first time we met him?
I do not think so, no.
Why was anything except for a Trallan in Trala?
Well, now... There are other, because we've gone to Trala several times. There are other villains.
There's villains that like
in Trala that aren't Trallins.
Right, so. But there's not just like some random character that's normally a bad guy that's living as a florist in Trala. What the fuck is that? So my question to one of our other once in a long time listeners, maybe once way back when, why? Given the appearances that we've seen and the fact that he was a florist in Trala, would anyone take the screen name Count Marzo?
Oh, come on. Leave Justin alone.
I'm sorry, but he is a joke of a character in this episode. He's a joke of an episode or character in this episode. I would never name myself after somebody that was a florist in Trala. Anyway, how about some stuff from the actual episode, like the action in the episode? At one point, Count Marzo and his sidekick are running away from the good guys, and they trip over a freaking spaceship. They were running towards the spaceship. They were looking at that direction. How would they trip over that? There's a ship there. There's no reason why you would trip over a ship that is in front of you. It's not like it's a stick. It wasn't a rock that they sometimes do. They sometimes will show a rock sticking out of the ground that Man-at-Arms trips over or this person trips over. They literally ran into a ship. It wasn't like they were running and looking backwards at the people that were chasing them. The screen shows them looking forward. The screen shows them looking forward and then running into the stuff that is outside of this ship.
Yeah. I have no idea, dude.
Okay, then I have a problem with the same thing that you had with the Adam and then turning into He-Man, turning back into Adam, etc., whatever. That was so weird the way that it was going down. Because virtually, it's like Adam and Tila and all them are there, and they're like, oh, run after those people, and we'll get these people. So he turns into He-Man so he can go get those people. Then he shows up to Tila with the kids or whatever, and it's like, oh, we got the kids. Well, where's the explanation for where Adam is then? Oh, Adam, there wasn't even like we thought Adam was getting the kids.
Yeah.
And then, where is Adam? And then all of a sudden, Adam's there and He-Man's gone.
Yep.
Like, that was just not handled well at all.
It goes back, and I'll say this, and I've said this many times in the 6-7 years I've podcasted. The problem with He-Man is the same goddamn problem with Lois Lane and Superman. You put the glasses on, you take the glasses off. Come on now, just look. Now see, here's the other thing. Did Tila run off after the wall came up and separated them, or did she stand there for a second?
I don't remember that part. I was so pissed off this episode.
Okay. Well, when the wall comes up to separate them so he can become He-Man, it goes back to what I said way back in the beginning of the podcast. If someone other than Orko, Man-at-Arms, or the Sorceress is nearby, can they not hear him saying, by the power of Gray... Not even hearing the effects and the transfer... Not hearing the sound effects, because that's for the watcher, that's for our benefit.
Right.
But just hearing him talk to himself and holding it, it's like, what the hell?
I can suspend the belief, I can suspend the part that they look identical, or that Cringer or Battlecat clearly looks like Cringer with something on him. I can deal with that. I'll take that. But still be careful about when you're doing the transformation, and there needs to be logical reasoning that explains why they wouldn't question where Adam is, or where He-Man went, or this, that, and the other.
I think they just dropped that.
It's almost like if you were on they could be in a submarine with Adam and Tila, and all of a sudden need He-Man, and then He-Man magically shows up in a submarine, and Adam disappears, and then Adam comes back and He-Man disappears. Like, that's not possible, folks.
That didn't happen, though. I mean, we had
almost as bad as that sometimes.
No, I know, but we did have that. We had Adam in a situation where he could not become He-Man. Right. He had to wait until... But
sometimes the writers don't care, and they're just like, oh, I don't care if that makes no sense.
Well, look, and again, this is the problem with cartoons of the 80s and 90s, where they brought in multiple writers to write multiple... Like, if Lou Scheimer had stuck with DiTilio, Wise, J. Michael Straczynski, Roby London, if they stuck with a core writing staff and had them do all 130 episodes instead of bringing in all these other people that maybe only had one or two or whatever, half an episode, whatever the hell it is, it would have been so much better.
And she's probably, I don't even know if she's alive anymore, or she's never going to listen to this episode. but Barbara Chain, who wrote this episode, I'm so glad she didn't write another episode. This bitch doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
Damn. You know it's bad, ladies and gentlemen, when OptimusSolo curses, because he never curses.
First of all, she named the episode the Eternia Flower. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Second, these episodes are only 22 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not a lot of time to do stuff. So there's a lot of times where they probably, a good writer, someone like you said, someone like Roby London or Larry DiTillio or J. Michael Straczynski probably have so much stuff that they want to cram in that they can't, but it's jam-packed from beginning to end, and they would have loved probably more minutes. This dummy was such a good writer that she literally didn't even use the 22 minutes.
Oh my God.
She used like 20 minutes, and then we have to watch as they pan around Eternia for the last like 30 to 45 seconds while nothing happens. It was like she was done with the episode, but they didn't have enough time. So they literally pan across the palace, pan across Eternia, then we do like the zoom out where we see the whole planet. It's like gosh darn near 45 seconds to a minute where nothing is said, nothing happens. Like, why would we waste that time when we could have put that back into the episode?
Yeah.
This is a terrible episode.
Okay, so while you've been ranting,
sorry, it's terrible.
I've been trying to do some research on Barbara Chain. I do not know if she is still alive or not.
We will not be interviewing her.
No, of course not. According to IMDb, oh my God. According to IMDb...
Did she write for Captain Planet?
No.
Okay.
No, she started out on Crusader Rabbit for 13 episodes in 1957. She then went to the United States Steel the United States Steel Hour in 1959. In 1962 and others, she wrote for Mr. Magoo. Famous Adventures of Mr. Magoo, 64 to 65. She wrote for the new Three Stooges. I love the Three Stooges. There's no way in hell I'm watching that. Because holy crap. The Monroes in 67.
She write anything else in the 80s?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So in the 80s, she apparently wrote one episode in 1986 of Punky Brewster. Unknown episodes of guess what? Because they never specify who wrote what in this series. Unknown episodes of Mask. I'm not kidding. I will send you the link to her IMDb.
Oh, man, so she has more great stuff out there.
She wrote this... she only wrote this episode of He-Man Masters Universe. She wrote one episode of Alvin and the Chipmunks from 86. And then she wrote 10 episodes of the 1986 cartoon for Rambo. And that's the last writing credit she has on IMDb.
That's terrible.
And you want to know what's even more terrible? Is that when you first pull her up, you know how IMDb shows what people are known for?
Right.
The first thing is Mask, then it's Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, and then Punky Brewster. He-Man isn't even shown. I know she only wrote one episode, but you would think that...
Yikes. All right, let's get to how we ranked this one, because I don't want to... I can't keep going negative.
Wow, folks. He made it 18 minutes, 30 seconds. Let's get to the awards.
Nothing works on this force field.
Now, how about if I try some magic?
Please don't.
Could you conjure up some food?
That I can.
Oh, it's raw.
No problem. Fire, burn so bright, cook up Cringer's food just right. Oops.
Orko, please be more careful.
Look.
The force field is gone.
Orko, you did it. Write that magic spell down for future reference.
All right, let's see how high I rated this episode. But before that, we have to give out hardware. I got two things I'd like to give out. First, I'd like to take a Havoc staff and put it somewhere that I won't say on air with Barbara Chain. She doesn't deserve to ever write for anything again. I apologize if she's no longer with us, but thankfully that means she just can't write anymore. Ouch. And then I'll also give a Havoc staff to the entire drawing crew on this one. How do you mess up characters that are already in existence. All you have to do is copy what's already been done.
Mm.
What do you got? You've enjoyed this way too much.
Because it's very rare. It's usually me going off on my soapbox. I gotta give a power sword to Cringer.
For not liking kids? I like that.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, you bet. Other than that, that's it.
All right. Rating-wise, first of all, I've never done this in season 2. I did do it twice in season 1, but
It's a 0.
I have not done it in season 2. But this is the first 0 of season 2. So a big fat 0 Battle Cats for the Eternia Flower. What about you?
I have to give it 2 points for the 2 lines that Cringer uttered about the children. So I'm going to give it 2 out of 5.
2?
Marcos. Yeah.
You're giving it a 2.
Only for Cringer, though. Not for anything else.
Too many points for Cringer.
Hey, come on now.
All right. I'm disappointed that you did not give this a 0 or a 1. Because that means it might not be in the worst episodes of the series. But I will find a way to get it there with my 0. We'll do an average or something. All right, so let's get the heck away from the Eternia Flower and all that nonsense and get to episode 113 coming up next. Happy birthday, Roboto. That's got to be better, right?
They should have switched these. This should have been 113, and Happy Birthday Roboto should have been 112.
That's the truth.
It sure was good to see our friend Garn again.
Yes, he's made great improvements in Tarka since he became king.
Hey, what's that?
Well, let's find out. A signal of some kind. We'll zero in on it. That's strange. The signal seems to be coming from that dune.
I'm not so sure that is a dune. Come on. Oh, it's metal. There's something hidden under this sand. Oh, something big.
By the power of Grayskull!
Stand back. It's a ship of some kind. Must have crashed here. I don't think this came from anywhere on Eternia.
It's badly damaged. It must have... Duncan, look out!
Got to dig in.
Looks like it's had enough.
It must have built itself a sleeping hole underneath that ship.
Speaking of that ship, let's take a look inside.
All right, last up today is episode 113, Happy Birthday, Roboto. Written by Barbara Chain. Oh, wait, no, we kicked her out of the show. It's written by Larry DiTillio, thank God. Thank God a Larry DiTillio episode followed that piece of garbage. Air date Thursday, November 15, 1984. Adam and Duncan rescue a robot pilot from its crashed spaceship and manage to fix it back up. But Modulok breaks into the palace to claim Roboto's powers for himself. Bad guys, we have Modulok in his first Filmation appearance. And the Masters, we have the regulars as well as the new character showing up here, Roboto. So one of mine at least hopes that we would still see some new characters before the end of the series is coming true with 2 characters in this episode. The first appearance of Modulok and the first appearance of Roboto. The PSA is Tila explaining about how it's good to help your friends and help people in need. Trivia here, Modulok's second head from his action figure appears as the head where he wanted to transfer the brain of Man-at-Arms. So the head that shows up in this appearance of him in the cartoon actually was available via the toy as a second head that you could use for that action figure. What did you feel about the robot pilot crash spaceship that they uncovered under the desert, and the appearance of Roboto and Modulok? Which, for the record, before we go too much further, Modulok technically is not an evil warrior.
No.
He is a member of the Horde.
Yeah.
So it's also one of our first appearances of any warrior of the Horde.
Right. They've cheated a few times and used Horde Troopers designs here and there, but they haven't actually used a member of the evil Horde until now. And at first I'm like, wait, is that Montana? Because the way his legs look, and I know Montana's legs are slightly different than whatever else, but... And then I was like, oh yeah, it's Modulok. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And the other thing that kind of gives it away is he's not in Snake Mountain or anything else. He actually has like his own little lair, his own headquarters type of thing. So you can kind of tell already that he's possibly has more to meets the eye as far as not just a regular evil warrior, that there's something more serious or something deeper about this character.
He's a hordeman in disguise.
What do you like? What about the idea of introducing two new characters in the same episode and doing it?
I think it's great. I just don't think that they used Modulok as well as they could have. I know this is a Larry episode. I'm not going to be too hard on it, but it just seems like the entire plot was... I don't know. It just seemed like it was way too Frankensteinish.
To me, what it reminds me of, and maybe you'll find a new appreciation if you look at it this way, but... the beginning of this episode, Man-at-Arms and Adam / He-Man discover basically this spaceship under the desert that nobody's known about. You know, it's who knows how long it's been here, who knows where it came from, or whatever. But there is a spaceship in here, and they uncover that there's an actual robot or a being in the spaceship, which to me reminds me very much of a show that I know you like. Quite a great deal, which would be Beast Wars. And listen to me here. It's almost like one of the pods that has crashed, and then it's basically almost like a race to either bring this guy into the fold or to steal him as a warrior for your own. And that's kind of how I almost saw this episode. It's as Man-at-Arms and Adam, He-Man, etc. are bringing Roboto home. They're showing him to the king and queen. They're trying to just basically bring him up to speed. I mean, yes, they do basically plan on fixing the ship and letting him go about his way, but they're also becoming friends with him and making him an ally, where Modulok sees this new character and sees that, hey, this is something I could use as a weapon. This is something I could use to my advantage. I'm going to take him and control him. So I didn't mind the idea of this being the way they used Modulok, and I thought it was a good introduction to him as a character, because it sets up some different levels to him compared to just like another Trapjaw or just another Beastman or something like that.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and you're right, it does feel very much like what Beast Wars would do, you know,
when a new character is introduced.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I don't know, for me, this episode, it went way too fast. It wasn't like fast paced. It wasn't action. It had action in it, but it wasn't every beat of it wasn't action. It just, I don't know. When I was watching this, it just seemed like it went by in a blink of an eye. I will say, when they were doing the whole find the ship in the desert thing, I was waiting for Rick Moranis to stop in and say, "Comb the desert."
Nice. Spaceballs reference. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I had a whole lot to say last episode in Snake Mountain. This time I'm going to make a pretty lengthy stop at Castle GRAYSKULL. So let's get there so I can start the highlight reel.
Okay. Wow, did you turn into Chris Jericho all of a sudden?
What?
The highlight reel.
It's a robot.
And he seems to be in pretty bad shape.
I think we should take him back to my lab. It's possible I might be able to repair him. Now our only problem is getting him running. I've tried everything I could think of, but nothing seems to work.
No, maybe we could just kick him. That always gets Father's Sky Chariot started. Just kidding, Duncan.
One moment, please. Entrance to laboratory is restricted. Please state your name for identification.
Why, I'm Orko.
Thank you. Orko identified as pest. Entry not allowed. Sorry.
Listen, you tin can. I'm on a mission for the king, so get out of the way.
Entry of Orko into lab is forbidden. Stop, please, or I will have to take appropriate measures.
Ha! I'd like to see you try it.
As you wish.
Hey!
I'm afraid you'll have to leave this area.
Hey, let me go, you rust bucket. I'm warning you. Let me loose. Let go.
What's that racket?
Sounds like Orko. I'll go check it out.
Okay, Metal Puss, you asked for it.
I wish you'd understand. This is just my job.
Abracadabra, abracadee. Make this junk pile set me free.
Oh, malfunction, malfunction, help, 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 help.
Orko, is that...
Orko, do you realize what you've done?
Gee, Man-at-Arms. It wasn't my fault. It was that stupid robot.
I beg your pardon.
All right. What did you like about Happy Birthday, Roboto, sir? Oh, you don't have enough? I'll take over for you.
Wait. I like that we get to see Roboto, and I like we get to see Modulok. With Modulok's thing, and I know we're not at Snake Mountain yet, but like I was saying in the plot, I just wish there was a little bit more to it. Or maybe say, and I know that this wouldn't happen because that they would be basically spilling the beans on what eventually happens in Secret of the Sword, but like have Hordak in Shadow where Modulok has to contact him, or have him contact Shadow Weaver. Just, I wish there was something more to his plan other than what there was. Yeah. I love seeing him. I think it's great that we saw him. But after that, I just started enjoying this one. I don't know.
We've had those parts of each episode as we've gone through here of what you're looking forward to, what your thoughts are in the remaining of the series, what do you want, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Okay, and a lot of the times I've said I want new characters, right? I want to see some new masters, or even better, some new evil warriors. I've said I want any type of continuity with any of the stuff that's happened before. A lot of different things that I've said I've wanted, this episode gives us. And I'm going to start with a couple things here. First of all, thank you, Larry DiTillio. Because, and I'm not just a Larry DiTillio fanboy. I'm not just going to like something just because it's him. I've disliked some of his episodes. I've liked some of his episodes, et cetera, et cetera. But what he does here is he actually acknowledges the fact that there's been 112 episodes prior to this. And you have to listen carefully, but there's a couple different references. First off, in the beginning, Adam and Man-at-Arms are flying back from wherever, and they actually explain why they're flying back from somewhere. It's not just like, oh, they're returning from somewhere that we don't even know why they're there, what they're doing, etc. They actually reference where they've been at, and they've been visiting Garn, who we had seen in a previous episode. Twice. We've seen him 2 different times, and they actually reference that, and it says that that's what they've just saw, and he's doing well, and this, that, and the other. So it's a good introduction, and it shows that they do things outside of the episodes we see. There's stuff that happens in between the episodes. So that's cool. Then they also later on reference the Zactons, which were in a previous episode. So multiple times during this episode, they're acknowledging the rest of the world that exists on Eternia and the rest of the episodes that we've seen prior to this.
I think the reason is that Larry does this is because he helped create the series Bible,
right?
And he knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to the series.
Well, and it's something that is appreciated from the viewer.
Absolutely.
Also like the idea of a hidden ship buried in the sand from some mysterious time or place that has people in it that we don't know. That's just always a cool story angle. I like that they say maybe we can just kick him to get him started. It's so 80s as far as like your electronics, and whenever your Nintendo or your TV wasn't working or whatever, you always just kicked it or slapped it or blew on it or whatever. So that was a cool reference. And for once, something that I usually harp on, I referenced it earlier that I hated a lot of the voices in the previous episodes, and that's been an ongoing theme for the whole series as far as using the same voice or using a terrible voice for that character. Mm-hmm. The bot that was guarding the lab had a very cool voice that we have not heard before in this series.
Yes, we have.
Not exactly like that.
But we've heard it before.
Well, we've heard his voice, the person that's doing it, but we haven't heard that version of his voice. I enjoyed Roboto's voice and the effect of the robotic stutter that they gave him.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was something new and different that we hadn't seen in the episode. And instead of knowing that they have the same limited number of people and the same limited number of voices, they added an effect on Modulok's voice that I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So it was way better than like Koldar and some of the other voices earlier in today's episodes. Modulok, Roboto, the robot, I enjoyed the voice work in this episode almost entirely. I also like the idea of the evil warrior or the horde member having his own layer of sorts. Like I said, it adds another layer to him. I love the shots of He-Man and Man-at-Arms captured. It was almost like you could freeze frame that and make a picture of that, like a painting. The artwork and the images in this episode are some of the best we've seen in the entire series.
Absolutely.
Like, there is some great shots of He-Man, of Man-at-Arms, of different scenery things, great stuff to look at. And I think Modulok overall is a great villain. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, especially after I had to sit through that crap beforehand. So, let's get to Snake Mountain and see if I have anything negative to say about Happy Birthday, Roboto.
Hello, are you a friend of Man-at-Arms?
No, I am his sworn enemy, as you will be when I am through with you.
Circuits disrupted. Can't get.
For the last time today, we're at Snake Mountain. Talk about anything we didn't like about Happy Birthday, Roboto. Do you got anything?
Again, I don't want to harp on this. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to anyway. I wish there was more to Modulok's plan. I love seeing him. I love the way he was. I love the voice. I love the character design. I just wish there was more. Like, I wish they had set up like he says to Roboto, oh no, I am Man-at-Arms' sworn enemy. Well, if you're Man-at-Arms' sworn enemy, why isn't there like a falling, break down doors, falling out war between you and Man-at-Arms if you're his sworn enemy? It just...
I did have a problem with that line. That's one of my only Snake Mountain moments, too, was that I wrote that he's his sworn enemy, but we've never heard of him before, and it didn't seem like it was that big of a feud between them. So I think that was a line that maybe was misused.
You think?
Yeah. I also didn't like that I like that Roboto was like, oh, I'm going to go get myself a hot cup of oil or whatever. But then, like, for some reason in the palace, they have a dispenser of oil, like almost like a pop machine. What? Who else would be using that? They knew that they quickly imported that from wherever Roboto's from, so he'd feel like he was at home. That was weird. I mean, it was kind of an interesting idea, but there would be no need for that in the palace. And one too many times maybe where it just takes convincing for someone to break out of a trance or a magic spell or some type of programming. Yeah. I understand that there's possible times where there's really no other way to explain it, but this is like the third or fourth time in season 2 where we've seen it where somebody's under some type of trance and something, and it just takes somebody to convince them, hey, you're good, break out of this, and then they do. It's kind of a cheap plot point, but I'll give it a slide because the rest of the episode was pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. All right, anything else for you?
Nope, that's it.
All right, for the last time, we're going to hand out some awards and find out how much Mike and I might disagree on this episode when it comes to rankings.
It can't be!
Are you all right, Duncan?
Yes, thanks to Roboto. Let's see how he is. Roboto, speak to me.
President,
Roboto, we've got to get him back to my lab quickly.
All right, it's awards and rankings time. I have a couple to give out. I will be giving out a pair of power swords as you can probably predict, 1 to Modulok and 1 to Roboto. What about you?
I'll give 1 to Roboto. I can't give 1 to Modulok. He didn't do enough in this for me. I mean, seeing him is great, but it doesn't warrant a power sword.
I mean, I think he was one of the better evil warriors we've been introduced, or horde members we've been introduced to. Better than any of the other ones so far. So I enjoyed him a lot. You started today with a 5, then you gave out a 2, and now hopefully you're going in the upward direction from a 2. What do you got?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 Orcos. I just take 1 point off for. It seemed like he didn't do anything. Like, his entire plot of making Roboto his slave didn't work. He didn't have a backup plan. It just seemed like he didn't do anything. And then they Larry makes mention in the script about, oh, well, he and Man-at-Arms are sworn enemies, and they don't do anything with that. So 1 point away, so I'll give it a 4.
Fair enough. I guess we slightly disagreed with the first episode because you gave it a 5 and I gave it a 4. So we'll do the reversal of that. I'll give this one a 5. Battle Cats.
Oh my god!
5. To me, this was darn near a perfect episode. I super enjoyed this episode. So 5 for me, 4 from you. We started on a good note. We ended on a good note. We'll erase the middle from our history, our memory banks forever, and let it be that. So decent. Season 2 continues to be mostly decent, mostly 4s and 5s and high ratings going out. So we'll have to see what happens with the rest of it. We'll be right back after this quick break.
You know, sometimes we think of people as being all good or all bad. Well, we shouldn't. Very few people are all bad. It may be hard to find, but if you look for it, chances are you'll find some good in most everyone.
And the best way to start is to never judge anyone by the way they look, but rather by what they do. Actions speak louder than words or appearances. It's something to reflect on. So long!
Do you know someone who uses drugs the way Jono used that flower? Drugs can be dangerous because of the effect they can have on the mind and body. The price one pays for the feeling a drug gives can be a loss of control, hurting someone you love, or something much worse. People often get sick playing with drugs. Some even die. Never take drugs from other people, even if a close friend says it's all right. Check with someone who really loves you. See you next time. It's too bad, but sometimes people think that doing the right thing is just too much trouble. When a friend is in trouble, there isn't time to wonder whether you should or shouldn't help. You just do it. And sometimes the one you help will turn around and help you. Remember, every time you help someone, the good comes back to you. Sometimes in ways you don't even know about. But it does. Another thing, there's nothing in the world quite like the feeling that comes from knowing you've done something good for someone else. We'll see you next time.
All right, so, I mean, overall thoughts on the series so far, pretty much like a broken record. Continue doing what we saw with Double Trouble, Happy Birthday, Mr. Roboto. Keep giving me new characters or continuous appearances of the characters that do appear. Give me more Modulok. Give me more Evil Warriors. Any type of tie-ins with any other past episodes. Keep it fresh, keep it new, keep doing what you've been doing so far in the second half of Season 2, and I will be happy. Anything that you are looking for or anything that you would like to never see again in the last 17 or so episodes of this series?
No more Count Marzo.
And no more kids.
Well, that's
and no more Barbara Chain.
I mean, those things are a given, though. No kids and no Barbara Chain. Surprisingly, this might be the only episode of the entire podcast, at least for the He-Man portion of Powers of GRAYSKULL, where we didn't have anything to bitch about for Teela.
That's true.
I mean, there might have been a couple of scenes where she was... I remember. I didn't bring this up. I'll bring it up now, though. The scene where she was going off on Jono or Johnny or Joni or whatever the hell the kid's name is, that I felt would have been better if it was more of an understanding. Instead of being a scolding kind of motherly thing, I felt it would have been better for a more understanding person to come in and talk to the kid. Someone like Marlene. Like, let's face it, the King and Queen don't do shit this entire series. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Randor and Marlena, but they are the most underutilized characters in the entire series.
Right.
Even more, like, and they're there almost all, they're not in every episode, but you assume, because it's the fucking palace, that they're there all the time. It's not like Merman, who can go off into, Sea of Rust or whatever, or Triclops going off to other planets, or, I mean, these are characters that are supposedly there all the fucking time.
Right.
Use them, please.
I agree.
We need a Rainbow Warrior Part 2. Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Anything else from you?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. The second half of season 2 has been going swell, so I have no problems with that.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Tales of Eternia. If you'd like to get in contact with us to leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on all of our posts. I just want to take this time, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't do it in episode 37 because I don't think it was up by that time. Steve Megatron has put up a PayPal donation thing at the very top of geekcastradio.com. We are trying to reach $1,000. This is to be able to keep our name and keep the content going to everybody that loves us and that likes us, or even people that don't like us. But we need help in protecting our name and protecting the site. Right now we're up to $32 and change, I think. So if you can, even if it's just $1 or whatever, head on over to geekcastradio.com. Help us keep the content going. We've been going for 5.5 years at this point. This June is our 6th year anniversary for geekcastradio.com. Send email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Please do this. We still only have 4 iTunes reviews. If we do not get more iTunes reviews by the time that She-Ra starts, we may not give you the podcast anymore. I'm just saying that now. I'm not saying that's going to come true or not, but Jesus, leave us iTunes reviews. We put a lot of work into this thing. Follow us on Twitter, @GeekCastRadio is our Twitter. Mine is TFG1Mike. What is your Twitter?
OptimusSolo.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast or Radio Network. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. We hope you enjoyed the tales today, and don't forget to join us in our next adventure when we'll be continuing Season 2, discussing episodes 114, 115, and 116. Those being Battle of the Dragons. Oh man, Granomir returns? Time doesn't fly. Yes, it does. And here, there, Skeletors everywhere.
That's a famous episode, so looking forward to that.
For now, I am TFG1Mike with...
The one and only OptimusSolo.
The power of Grayskull. You all have the power.